Relationship 360 with Onyinyechi Ekomankama. Olumide Kayode-Omosebi is here. We have a full house today. The Omosebi clan came in today. The Kayode-Omosebi clan came in today, and they're very well represented. Hopefully, during the show, we'll hear from our special guests in the studio. But let me allow the good barrister to round off his thoughts, and then we open for lines and take some of the WhatsApp messages that are already coming in.
Okay, there are several. I want to describe several instances to you. A lady came to my office. She was a Muslim who became a Christian and got married to a pastor. So she was into the business of sewing, embroidery, and all that. She had machines for that. She said she went somewhere, but she went for an event a day or two. By the time she came back after, some time after marriage, she found out that her husband sold all her machines, her sewing machines and everything. And then when she asked, he said, well, God called him into full-time ministry. And then, the pastor said he should sell and come and pay tithes of all that they have, leaving all to come and follow the church. So he sold all that and then moved to serve the church, and he was posted to a branch that had less than 20 people. The wife, after a year, could no longer take it because, 20 people, how? And then, whatever they even get, they have to remit to the church. She said that they were barely making 2,000 naira a month. The man had sold all she had, but she can't go back to her family because she has been disowned for converting to Christianity and all that. So she really had nowhere to go. In fact, just before she came to my office, she had a stroke while trying to explain to me. So it was funny as another that she has been taking care of this man for 20 years. All he does in the room is to hear him speaking in tongues from morning till evening. He will come out, where's his food, he eats, he goes back, and that is it. The wife pays this, pays all that, never has, but when she started a business, she put Mr. and Mrs. That whenever he's angry, he will now tell her not to go to the business, that he is a shareholder, knowing that he did not drop a penny. That the church is in their house and it's like 10 people, and she has been doing this for 20 years. The husband is now over 60 and she is tired. She is tired. The children have no respect for the man because he just does nothing, which is a really sad example to leave for children. When your son grows up to see that the father does nothing but pray in the room, come out to watch TV, eat, go back to bed. That is a terrible example to leave for men, boys, children. And then what we would have is to be raising children who would be more of spiritual, looking onto people, because the issue is that what they have is what is given by the graces of people. When they want to have a party, you have to announce in church that next week is Pastor so and so's birthday, so that people will give. You cannot have a birthday without people giving. And when it causes an inferiority complex with their children, because their children are always handed down. How is it that you were coming from a job that was paying you 250, you resign, and then you are doing a job that is paying you 40,000 naira with 3 children? And how is the pastorate a call into suffering or poverty? No way. Jesus did not beg anyone for food. In fact, he fed people. And you will find out that those pastors that have what they are doing as a side business are more respectable than those that have nothing but are living up. And this is why would they not steal from the offering? Why would they not steal from the tithes? Why would they not become a prayer for hire? Someone who is a relative claimed that he's a pastor, is abroad, and lives in the UK. One time, I was called that he prayed for someone and came all the way from UK to go and fight in Ikorodu. That after the prayer, the man's business turned around and he did not send him anything. And that man was arguing with him that, who told you are the only one that was praying for me? It became an embarrassing situation. He said, it was when he prayed That if you look at the time of his prayer to the time of his breakthrough, it was very, very near. That it was his, you now start as if, is he the one that answers prayers? But that is what happens when you make people make the congregation a source of income. If you are the general overseer, that you can live, or you are okay by the graces of the, you have your private jets, you have your casket, but the people under you paying 30,000, 40, and you say they should come into full-time ministry and must not have another source of income, that is madness, and that has nothing to do with the call of God. In fact, that is why there are so many atrocities in this position of a pastor, because there are so many doctrines, they don't know what they are doing. It has nowhere. It is not. Look at First Timothy 3:4. Look at Titus. All the descriptions given to pastors, none is to become jobless, or to have no skill or talent, or to be unable to. Look at Paul the Apostle. When you look at Acts of Apostles, the Acts of the Apostles, chapter, I think, 8, you will find out that he had a job. He was, first of all, a lawyer, he was a politician, and a tent maker. Paul made tents. You could see him in the Acts of the Apostles with Aquila and Priscilla. The Acts of the Apostles 18, 2-3. You could see that he teamed up with Aquila and Priscilla. They were tent makers, and that was what he did to support himself. Why is it that you have nothing to support yourself? There is no such thing in the Bible as a full-time pastor. You are either a pastor or you are not a pastor. You are expected to be able to take care of your house. Look at 1 Timothy 3, verse 4 and verse 5. One that ruleth well his own house, having his children in subjection with all gravity. Verse 5. If a man knows not how to rule his own house, the word rule there is the word manage. If you look at the New International Version and the New Living Translation, it says, for if a man does not know how to manage his own house, how can he manage the house of God, the church of? So the first job of a pastor is his house and not the church. The job of a pastor begins from home to church and not from church to home. 18, the number of women that have left their marriages this year from us, who, because of the pressure, you now put pressure on the women to take, they will pay the rent, they will pay children's, and you will come with 30,000 naira and drop 10,000 or 50. What is that even supposed to do? And you are the one giving birth. They are aggressive reproducers. Your child that you are not even able to baby dedicate yourself, it is by the graces of the church. You have to call they have to make announcements. And isn't it a shame? Christ never took a dime from, he was even feeding 5,000, feeding if you have to listen, you need to tell, you have to be educated, you have to have a skill or a talent, or they will start stealing from the church. They would become desperate and hungry people. You think they don't want good things. They too, they don't want to ride cars. They too, they don't want to live in there. They come to your house, the head pastor, with your air conditioners and your bodyguards and then you call someone to full-time ministry, tell them not to work, and you're paying them 40,000, 50,000, and they have children. How are they going to pay school fees? How are they going to pay accommodation? You say, well, you've given them a 2-bedroom. Is that what their mates are having? If my daughter is cuckoo here in the studio, you can't come to me and tell me that you want to. I don't mind. He can be a pastor, he can be an apostle for all I care. He can be the Messiah. But when I ask you, what does he do for a living? And he tells me that it is by the grace of God, I will not attend that one. She's here. I will not attend that one.
Oh my goodness.
It is not possible to marry a jobless person who is looking at the congregation for sustenance. Because that means my work will not finish. I would still have to be sustaining my daughter when she has the first child, second child. The family will still have to, she is still family property. What shame. You come to pray for me in my house, I have to give you transport money to go back. How is it possible that you are praying for prosperity for me and you yourself cannot afford to pay your children's school fees that the church has to give you before? It's the same thing. You say you are going to a babalawo who is wretched and living in the bush and is doing money rituals for you. Now, why can't he do money rituals for himself? You are calling a pastor who cannot afford, you have to give him money for transportation to come and pray for financial blessings for you. What about him? The all flows from the head. Anybody who uses that calling, now we see that pastorship, according to the Bible, to be a bishop, to be a pastor, is not by calling. It doesn't have to. You can desire to be. It is there. When you look at 1 Timothy 3:1, this is a true saying. If a man desires the office of a bishop, the office of a bishop is the office of an overseer, of a pastor. He desires a good work. So it shows you that it is not all calling. In fact, it is only the pastorate that does not require calling. Of all, the apostle is a sent one. The prophet is called spokesman. He speaks what God says. The evangelist, the pastor, and the teacher. Of all of this, it is only the pastorate that does not need or require a calling. So we have more people that are pastors that were not called, just desired. All you have to do is, in fact, some people retire into being a pastor is a retirement plan. As they finish, they just, their old age, they just go to church and they become a pastor. And that is why that is the most abused office. It is the most atrocious and calamitous office. This year alone, before the end of the year, in the state CID, they had arrested 7 general overseers for all kinds of crimes, and then all kinds of people will be coming to come and beg for pastor to come. And in fact, there was a case that I was handling where the pastor tried to defile their own house help. And next thing, the area pastor, all of them were coming, not even to reprove, but till today the person is still an AP. How is that possible? And he has a history of child molestation while he was a teacher in school, and he is the one sitting, and because they just desire this office and you give it to them without background check, you just come and as long as they are available, and then you are paying him 40,000 with 3 children. Anyone who uses the word pastor as an excuse to be jobless. Some people, they just tell you they are not interested. Let me tell you, my neighbor became a pastor because he saw them give a pastor a plot of land. He came home, he could not get over it. That next thing he said is going to be, he was an insurer, he went straight into so that some it just big now, they are called, people just become pastors for crazy reasons. So it is not, when you use that as an excuse, listen, the women that choose people, he's a pastor. No, what does he do? How will he take care of the family? 18 women this year alone have left. They will now be begging them. Why? Because he's a pastor, it will affect the ministry. Not that it is affecting his children, they will be talking about ministry. When the children are suffering, the pastorship starts from the home, not from the church. So it is the home that you should be looking at. And that's why I respected one pastor there in House on the Rock at that time. He would say, if your home is not, he won't allow you to sit on the pulpit. You will sit down. Your home must be okay. Let me end there.
We'll do for another break in a few minutes. Before that, some WhatsApp messages have been pouring in, and quite lengthy reads, if I do say so myself. But because of how close we are to the break, I wouldn't open the phone lines yet, but I will read your WhatsApp messages. You can send WhatsApp messages to 0809 597 5805, 0809 597 5805. And of course, you can tweet at Nigeria Info FM. I'll be taking text-based messages for now, but once we return from the break, phone lines will be open and phone calls and Skype calls can start coming through. This is from Willis. Willis says, as far as he's concerned, throughout the scriptures, there is not a leader mentioned who didn't provide for the needy. He says a pastor leads, feeds, and teaches. Christ said, if anyone among you will be a leader, he should feed his sheep. It was only in the Old Testament that God forbade high priests from working because of their sacred duty, offering sacrifices, an ordinance to God which required them staying in the temple. They ate from the offerings brought to them. It was an order given, not a law or commandment. So it was relevant to that time, subject to adjustment when circumstances required. Willis concludes by saying people should learn to differentiate what a commandment is or what a law is from regulations or an order given due to their present situation or circumstance. Men must learn to counsel their spouse before taking risky actions. Quite a read from Willis, and trust me, that's not the longest message that has coming. Let me see. Good morning, Barrister. Without any doubt, you nailed today's topic, and by now it must have been resting many's brain back to factory settings to cross-check their so-called calling. You are an anointed teacher, even though you may not agree. God bless you for this exposition. That's Sammy Jackson sending that from Ikorodu. This is from Femi the Pundit. He says the table, in quotation marks, pastor Olumide is shaking today, has been shaking for long, but we, the people ourselves, have elevated the least amongst us to the highest and the most important as not important. Funny, a colleague said when they have marital issues, they go to a pastor and I ask why not a marriage counselor. She said pastors no more. Femi says he just kept quiet in that situation. All right, have a few more minutes. Mr. Olumide, don't scatter this table. That's the message that this person sent. No name, no location. That's just what he said. We've got a very short break. Okay, interesting. The time for this break keeps increasing, so maybe I can squeeze one call. Welcome to the show. What's your name and where you're calling from? Nobody there. Hello, good morning. Thank you very much for calling. Very quickly, please, your name and where you're calling from. Greet you too.
Good morning.
All right, quickly, please, go ahead.
That's why they fight Father Free at School FM. They fight and fight. I think this our religion. When they do it compulsory, if you want to enter any church or if you want to enter anything, let them go to the school and go and learn. But if I get me this for you.
Eh? Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Wow, that was a special Christmas one.
That was a special number for you.
Thank you very much.
Interesting. What messages are pouring in now? Can I take one call? I think I can. 99.3, good morning. Thank you so much for calling. Very quickly, please, before the break comes in. Please turn off your radio, Henry. Thank you for calling. All right, go ahead, please. Very quickly. Go ahead, please. Very, very quickly.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Compliments on the show.
Yeah, same to you.
Henry, go on, please.
Thank you out today. Very, very good. But I just want to add to that. You see, many people were not called by God. That's just the problem. If you look around, if you see that people that were called by God, exactly, if you see people that were called by God, God will sponsor them. Not them scamming or begging people for money. But the majority have not been called. That's just the problem. They just themselves into the ministry. Automatically going to feel the deal.
When you call yourself, you will feed yourself, Abby.
Thank you so much, Henry. I have to let you go.